Hello, guys, and welcome back to yet another exciting episode of In Search of Success, where we are discussing, dissecting, and deconstructing various aspects of life, success, and leadership so that we can share with you the tools and the techniques, the strategies and the tactics, and the formulas and the frameworks you need to bring your ideas to life, to turn your dreams into reality, and to achieve anything you set your mind to. So our guest today is Gauri Das. Gauri is the Vice President or Head of HR for India Factoring and Finance Solutions Private Limited. Gauri is an engineer turned HR. She has a double master's in human resources and psychology. Now, apart from doing her job as an HR, she's also passionate about speaking. Gauri is an accomplished speaker who has graced multiple national and international events as a speaker, keynote speaker, and as a panelist. Now, she's also a TEDx speaker, and she's also a member of Professional Speakers Association of India, or PSAI. Apart from being a speaker, Gauri is also an author whose writings have been published on Times of India, the Economics Times, People Matters, etc. And she loves empowering women as well. That's why she leads a lean-in circle called Leaders Lifting Leaders. I think she has done a collaboration with the members of this group to publish the first book, which is The Power of Connections, which is available on Amazon if you're interested to go for and check that out. And Gauri has a list of awards and accolades that she has received over the years. So she has been recognized with the top 10 global women HR 100 under 40, top HR Mind India and Economic Times Young HR Leader, LinkedIn Person of the Year 2022, and top 10 must-have connections on LinkedIn, to name a few. So I had a fantastic discussion with Gauri, and you'll see how much of wisdom she has. It's not only fun, it's a very unique viewpoint she brings into organizational design and leadership. So go ahead, enjoy the discussion, take tons of notes, and see how practically you can take those and implement at your workplace to make your workplace better. I'll see you at the end of the episode. Hello, Gauri, and welcome to this podcast. I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to host you. I hope you're also excited to share your wisdom with us.
Yes, thank you so much, Deepak, for creating this platform. And yes, looking forward to an exciting conversation too.
Awesome. Let's begin with some fundamental questions. You are a CXO, right? So, first question is, what do you think, in your opinion, in your experience, what do you think is the primary responsibility of the senior leadership or CXO team of a company?
Yeah, very important question because lot many times it is people joke around and say, "ये करते क्या है?"
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I think the primary responsibility is about creating that vision. And in today's context, it's all about creating and maintaining that culture.
Mm-hmm.
As it is said that the culture is dreamt from top to bottom, right, and lived from bottom to top.
Button top.
So the leadership team has to create that culture, and it's like not visible, but very, very important thing that happens with the organization. And in today's time, if I had to say the top three ingredients of any organization, it would definitely be a vision, a culture, and any idea is as good as its execution.
Right, execution. Okay.
Yes. So when it comes to getting things executed, culture plays a very important role. That vision plays that very important role. That purpose. I want to know what is happening when am spending 10 hours a day at work.
Right.
Where is it going?
Right.
So senior leadership does this, a role modeling, a culture builder, and maintaining it as well. And I think the most important ingredient for any organization would be these things.
These things, right? Okay. So when you say vision building, right? So senior leadership, most of the time they have a vision. The job is to basically communicate that vision to the employee group, right? And then influence them to follow along, right? So, but there is a challenge that most of the leadership team feels or experiences is, let me summarize it in one line: humans resist change. So how do you manage that? How do you lead change effectively without, or let's say, minimizing the resistance that you can get from employees how do you minimize it? How do you effectively lead change? It could be policy change, it could be process change, it could be change of business model, it could be a lot of different changes into businesses today, right? So any change, how do you think, or what would be your advice to some senior leader watching this podcast? These are the 2 3 steps you must take in order to minimize resistance, or in order to make your change, if implementation effective
Yeah, rightly said, Deepak. Change is the name of the game today,
today.
and
Yes.
everything is changing. Even the vision that we spoke about, one, if it is a startup, you will create a vision.
Right.
So I have been fortunate to be part of the team that created vision. And even if you are not a startup, your vision that got created 20, 30 years ago is not going to help you today. So
Right.
that also gets changed. And
Right.
yes, there's a lot of change and we need to manage it. COVID taught us that no BCP works. And that was the only time when BCP was invoked for such a long time. And it was in HR's term, it was post OD.
Okay.
Because we always do change management, but this was like you did not plan for it. It did happen and you had to manage it well. And
Right.
people did it very, very well. I think when it comes to change management, and I have had experiences post merger and acquisition startup where change is like all pervasive. It's
Right.
day in, day out, you're talking about change.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
basis those experiences, I would say a few things really work. Number one is listening. So
Okay.
don't go by only the top tier,
Okay.
and go down, go and understand from people on the field, people on the floor.
Uh-huh.
Have that openness to listen to them,
Okay.
and also bring in those practices what they are asking for. So
Okay.
one thing that has really helped me in redesigning or designing policies is I have not restricted it to only my peers, which is CEO directs. I at least go to one more level down and I involve them in decision making process. Yes, it does take time because more people, and there's a lot of democratic discussions, and my boss many a times tells me also that too much democracy is not good, but when it comes to policies and all, it is really really helpful because the policies are for them, the change management is for them.
Right.
So unless they are fully involved, you would not be able to get it done from them. So one
Right.
is listening, second is communicating the change.
Okay.
Any change, even a simple technological solution, might make people think that their jobs are at stake
Right.
because it is projected as productivity improvement.
Right. Right.
And what
Right.
happens when machines give productivity? The first thought process is that many more people would be asked to go.
Elimination. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So, but that's not true all the time because organizations are in expansion mode and technology and talent are only differentiated today. So, there is no possibility that you can remain away from technology.
Right.
But how do you communicate is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, communication plays a very important role here, and it is not only what you are saying, but your body language also.
Right.
When you are communicating that it is going to increase productivity, are you focusing on the balance sheet numbers? How are you connecting the two?
Right.
That becomes very, very important. So,
Mm-hmm.
communication, how you are projecting things to the world would be second thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing would be humble, accept mistakes if there are any, and keep learning from them. Because change management does not happen in a day's time. It is a long drawn process,
Right.
and you may fall, you may make mistakes, but accept it, have that humility to accept mistakes, learn from others, and reiterate. I mean, bring in those learnings and redo things and then roll out again. So
Right.
listening, having everybody say there. Second is communication, and third is be humble to accept your mistakes and learn from them and keep growing.
Right. Awesome. So I think last one you said is keep re-attempting at it if you made a mistake or something. So probably first is listen, then communicate, be humble and take ownership of your mistakes, learn from them, and then do it again, right? Until you have achieved your objective, right? So I would say it's a 4 step change leadership process. Thank you for sharing that with us. Awesome. So, what do you think when it comes to implementing change or influencing a certain group of people or a full organization, right? What kind of role trust plays for a leader? Because There is either authoritative leadership, whereas I have authority, I asked you to do so, so you have to do it. Or there is kind of personal leadership, like you trust me. So whatever I'm asking you to do, you will definitely do it. And I might have authority, you might not trust. Trust is, it's like not something I can ask you, Gauri, trust me, I am your boss, right? It doesn't work that way, right? So, but you will never follow a leader whom you don't trust, right? That's for sure. That's a given. So as a leader, if I have to, let's say, joining a new organization, and my challenge is to build rapport, build trust, so that whatever ideas I'm bringing in, it's accepted or at least discussed and not outright rejected, right? And then we can probably look at execution and implementing with the team and stuff like that, right? So if I'm joining or taking up a new role or joining a new organization as a CXO, how would I build trust? What would be your advice to me?
Yeah, another very interesting question. And yes, you rightly said, trust ke bina kuch nahi hota. There was
Right,
a time when you could say, I'm your boss and get things done for me.
right,
Now people have lot many opportunities, lot many other options. They're not going to care about what title you have.
right,
So it's all about influencing, getting things done from them with a positive intent, of course.
right, right,
Because when it comes to leadership, are we saying Hitler was a leader? He had a very huge influencing skills and also a large followership. But for me, we would not be a leader because the intent was not right.
right,
So for a leader, trust plays extremely important role, especially in today's time when we have a whole new generation, which you rightly said, Deepak, that घर पे भी बताते हैं and they don't listen to what we are saying. They observe us and they just follow
imitate,
what we are doing. Yes. So here also it's very important, and in a new place, trust building does take time, but once it is done, things are sorted. So
yes,
what has really worked for me, and I've seen leaders doing it, is number one, have regular connect with team. So those team meetings, but how do you conduct them? Do you just ask what's going on, what about work? Because research also says that 90% or more time of a leader goes into just following up with what is happening with work.
right,
No one cares about you as a person, and
right,
when that happens, the rapport has not built up.
okay,
So that is one thing where you will have a regular connect, and it would be about everything. So informal meetings, and I have made this mistake as well, and I had got a feedback many years ago that my manager does not take us out for dinners or fun time, and I was
okay,
like, I never thought that my boss should take me out, but this is new generation.
right.
So it is happening. So that is second thing, that informal connect also becomes very important.
So I'll say personal connect, not informal.
Yes.
It's called personal connect. So
Personal connect, yeah. Yes,
professionally,
yes,
we are connected. We are discussing about projects and reports and stuff. But let's have a personal connect as well.
yes. So
Okay.
you should know what's going on in your team members' life to a certain extent, because I
Correct.
come from banking, and before COVID, in banking, you would not even ask the other person, how's your spouse or how
Right.
many kids you have, because there
Right.
was a clear boundary there.
Okay.
But those boundaries are broken now, and the calls got started with how's your family doing, how's schooling happening, and your kid is on the camera, right? So things have definitely changed, and this should be leveraged to the fullest of building that relationship. Sharing a meal is one of the other thing that can be very very useful. The daily ritual I'm referring to. So there can be small ritual, like you have a tea together, you have lunch together, and you get to know more about the other person, and you are also open to sharing. That is most important, because
Right.
everything starts from self. If you
Ah,
are too reserved and you do not want to bring out anything about yourself, the team will follow you.
right.
So have that openness, that is there. Then trust building, this is one side of the story. The most important side of the story, when I am in trouble, how do you behave with me? If I
Mm-hmm.
have made a mistake, how do you take things forward? Do
Mm-hmm.
you put the blame on me, or you take it in team spirit and making mistakes is fine, or you just say that making mistakes is fine? So how do you treat me at work is also important. You can take me to parties every weekend, but if I read that morning call with you because you are going to insult me in front of people, it is not going to happen. So give
Mm.
them that benefit that even if they have made a mistake, it's sure that no, you are not going to do any harm to them, and you are only as a team going to learn from mistakes and move forward. So that is another thing. Then making everything, all resources available for the team. Okay, I make a mistake, you take care of me, you take me out, there's personal connect. But what happens if I don't even have the right resources?
Mm-hmm.
So making those resources available is also your responsibility. So life में working life में stress कहाँ से आता है? One would be
Mm-hmm.
coworker, another would be manager himself or herself. Then there will be things stuck. The tools are not available. There is no reward mechanism. So all these things are totally based on manager, and manager plays a crucial role here. So if you can take care of these things, I am going to be happy with you.
Mm.
And finally, managers must remember that they are a linking pin. They work in two teams. One team of their peer and their seniors, which is talking about the organization's goal. And here you have your directs. And you
Right.
are a linking pin between the organization's goal and the team's goal. So have that link. And then if you have that connect of head, hand, and heart, the
Mm-hmm.
three H that we say, you are going to be the most productive manager and at the same time most human manager as well.
Most trustworthy as well, huh?
Yes.
When you say linking pin, I mean, that kind of asks a couple of questions. Like, so basically, I am a conduit for the employee group to pass on their problems, their challenges, their impediments to the senior management.
Yes.
And I am supposed to do that for them, right? As well as communicating or receiving, or, communicating basically the company's goal, organizational goals, organization challenges, what the organization is going through as a difficult time, all that also has to flow back to the employee. So I'm basically a conduit of proper communication, right?
Yes, and also if I am doing something good as your direct, this should also be passed on to the team. The visibility that we talk about, and
Right.
that's where LinkedIn plays a very important role besides your internal intranet. So any
Right.
recognition which is done worldwide on LinkedIn gets a lot of brownie points for you, right?
Right.
And at the same time, if there's anything you want to correct me, you got to correct me in private. Those
It,
rules never change.
those rules are there. Got it. Got it. So you mentioned about visibility. So do you think it happens often? At least, like, I don't see it happening often. You mentioned about getting that feeling of belongingness, right? So the employees has to connect to what is happening, whatever I am doing in the 10, 12 hours, right? How does it impact the customer? So when a product is launched or a service is launched and there are real customers somewhere in the world getting impacted, and the feedback flows in, hey guys, I love this particular feature in your app, or something else about your product or service, that is gone to the directors or CXOs, and that has to flow back to the employees as well. Do you think that happens often in the organizations, or it doesn't? Because my experience says it doesn't happen that often, but it is
Yeah, yeah.
important. So what do you think? Your experience is like how it is.
Yeah, it's very true, and it again goes back to culture. How what kind of culture you have created? There are organizations where even CEOs will pick up people and they will recognize them.
That's what I was talking about. Yes. So okay, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
And in certain organization, even within the team, you don't even know what's happening. So for my story also, I started my journey from doing this leave and attendance management.
Okay.
And in the whole set of things, I used to think, एक महीना मैंने नहीं भी किया तो how is worth going to how is earth going to change?
Right.
But as I grew in my roles and I started seeing others doing it, I realized even that contribution is extremely important. So you talk about employee experience, and
Right.
that's a buzzword today, and you have to create it. And every touch point counts. Now think about a time where you have everything, all the holistic wellness piece and all the gyms and membership and holidays and everything. Your salary is not on time. Or your salary comes, but there are certain errors. Your
Right.
TDS has certain errors.
Right.
What will happen to employee
Got
experience?
it.
So now I tell people that even that small thing that you think is extremely important because it's playing a very, very important role in overall employee experience.
Right. Right.
And likewise, each effort counts, whether you are in operations, you are in treasury, you are in credit, the holistic experience that you are giving to that customer. If I don't do my work, I'm irrespective which department I belong, even HR, right? If
Right.
employee is stressed because salary was incorrect or there was not on time, the delightful experience that the employee is going to give to customer is not going to happen.
Right.
So each and every effort counts. But yes, you are right. Managers बहुत कंजूस होते हैं. They don't give this lot of accolades or recognition in open, and that's where HR needs to push. Because lot many times when you are connected with people, you will get to know what projects are going on, what's happening, and create that culture. So I promote it in terms of even recognizing your seniors.
Right.
First time when I did it, people were like, it's not psychophancy. It is not. They are also human, and if you recognize upwards, it is like creating that culture. Downwards to hum kar hi rahe, but even do upwards so that it's like I can recognize anyone. So we have a program which is called as My Motivator. And this was launched during COVID, and we said that anybody who is like everybody, you as you know, were in a different state of mind. Okay. So if I am someone who is not only motivated, but I am also sharing or spreading that positivity with others, I am a motivator. And I had recognized my CEO for this. Oh, okay. And again, the first comment by psychophancy kar rahe ho. It's not psychophancy. When I talk to him, he gives me so much positivity. Right. So it's like creating the whole culture. And likewise, CEOs recognize other. We have peer recognition also. Right. I think recognition plays a very important role, but irrespective where it comes from, unless it is driven by manager, it does not have that much value. Because I work with my manager every day. Anybody else can recognize me, but if it is rooted through my manager, that's most important for me. Got it. Yes, that's important to me. Got it. So here is a very perennially important question: managers versus leaders. What's the difference? How can a manager be converted into a leader? If I'm a manager, let's say with 15, 20 years of experience, I want to get into the leadership role. What should I start doing? What kind of behaviors should I start, showing at workplace? What should I do basically? Yeah, very important. And lot many times, despite doing that managers program, the first time managers program, and all, we do not understand it. And I think the reason lies in lack of self awareness. To become a leader, you need to know yourself. How do you show up? What is your strength? What are your fears? Even knowing your fears become very important, because lot many times we see that people do not encourage others in their team members because they are scared of insecurity and yes. Fear. Okay, got it. So your fears also should be known to you. How are you behaving emotionally? Ask for feedback and understand from your team. It would not come easily because there is appraisal also associated with the same team. Yes. But if you are genuine, people will tell you. And once you have that self awareness, you will know your boundaries, you will know your limitations, and you will know your strengths also. Then second thing would be don't have that ego, because ego creates a lot of challenges when it comes to being a manager or a leader. A leader will be like selfless, and I know there's a lot of work for leaders, and they have to run the team, they have to earn profits for organization, because no organization is running for charity. But at the same time, and in today's time, the employee expectation has also increased tremendously. So balancing that becomes very important. And when you don't have ego, it becomes very easy. Self awareness is first thing. Second thing is driving performance through them, but not considering them only as a means of achieving your results. Right. And third thing would be ego. If you have ego in you, you are not humble, the connect would be missing, the trust will be missing, and you would continue to remain a manager. And by the way, I don't think being a manager also is bad, because organization need people. Need managers, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. But if you are taking that step, start from self awareness. It will also give you understanding about ego. Connect those dots, and finally, do not use people for a selfish mean. Be a coach to them. So these three things I would say. Right. Now, why I ask this question is, as you said, managers are also important. So let me put it this way: it's a fun imagination. Just struck. So if let's say I give a 1 year sabbatical to all the leaders, and only managers are available to run the company, what will happen in that case? And vice versa. Like
All the leaders are there, but the managers are given a 1 year sabbatical. What will happen to the organization in either case?
Yeah, very interesting scenario. I think a lot of things can happen. In short run, you can see productivity going high.
Okay.
But in long run, the results would be disastrous.
Okay.
Because you cannot run an organization with managers only. You need to have leaders. So it's like situational. That's what we say, situational leadership, right?
Leadership, right?
Yeah. So when there is a task requirement, get it done. But say, for example, your scenario happened during COVID times.
Right.
I think there will not be anybody left once the great resignation started.
Right.
Because people know they are only managers, no leaders, and they cannot work with them.
Right.
But for certain short time, you may see the productivity has improved because there is stick and carrot and things are working. But you cannot have a long term vision in such
Not
organization.
sustainable, basically. Got it. Got it. You also mentioned about driving performance, right? So, in as a leader, in driving my team's performance, how much my emotional intelligence or my emotional awareness plays a role? Because I believe emotion is something that impacts our productivity, our creativity, our decision making, everything basically. So, how much my emotional intelligence, me being intelligent about my own emotions, I mean, and my team members' emotions, what they're going through, what is impacting their performance, how much my emotional awareness and my emotional intelligence plays a role in my team's productivity and performance today?
I think that would be single biggest factor.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are emotional beings.
Right.
Research has proved that the decision, even a simple decision, what are we going to wear today, is taken through emotions.
Right.
And same goes for large decisions also. The decisions are already taken in amygdala, and then we bring in some logic to rationalize
Justify it, rationalize it. Yes.
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 So when it comes to running a team, also, I think the single biggest factor is understanding self and understanding others, and also at the same time remain motivated because we said change is the name of the game, and there is a lot of requirement of resilience, of self motivation. So how you are interacting with the team, what kind of vibes you are giving to them. जैसे हम सुनते हैं कि सुबह सुबह दिमाग खराब कर दिया
Right.
बॉस घर पे लड़के आया होगा those sort of stuff, and the whole day goes bad for people.
Right.
And that's the kind of impression you start creating, that this person is not emotionally stable, stay away.
Right.
When your team is staying away, you are not driving productivity, nor you are driving relationships.
Right.
So single biggest factor is what I would say: understanding self, understanding others, and keep remaining motivated.
Let's say I'm a manager who is focused on tasks and projects. Now I have to go into a leadership role. And I think managers also need to be emotionally intelligent. But if I'm not someone and I have to make that transition from being a little bit of emotionally unaware to being emotionally intelligent or emotionally aware, what would be your advice to me? What should I do as a habit or kind of practice to improve my emotional intelligence at workplace? What should I do? If you're coaching me, mentoring me, what would be your advice to me?
Yeah, there are few things that you can do. One is definitely reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Ask people, or run it in your mind. How did you behave? It had been better, done better, dealt with better? So ask for feedback and reflect on it. Because nothing better than self reflection. We know ourselves very well. It's just that we don't want to open our eyes to our spots, those dark spots that we do not like about ourselves.
Right.
So that would be first thing. Second, practice empathy, and it can be done. I have seen many people in my course of career who were on the extreme side of being non-empathetic to now being very, very empathetic, and it can be learned. So practice empathy is another thing that I would say. And third, I would say be human first, and things would be in place. Because you should not, many people are afraid that if they start becoming nice to teams would not perform and their performance would hit. But that's not true, it's just a myth. The fact is, when your team is happy doing something, the results would be even more. They would work even on holidays for them, even without complaining, if there is a need.
Right, right.
So don't have this thought process in your mind that if I start becoming nice, then team is not going to perform. So self reflection, practice empathy, and all the myths related to being a leader and the loss that you are going to have,
Right.
just remember that these are all myths and they don't hold any value.
Here you are talking about myths. What are some of the leadership myths that kind of drive leadership performance subconsciously? Like for example, this one, or for example, uh, like a lot of times, right? Leaders believe that as a leader, I am supposed to guide my team, right? So I should have all the answers when I'm taking my team and trying to. We have a vision, and I'm taking my team to make that vision a reality. We are moving towards something. So on that path, as a leader, I should have all the answers. And when they come into a situation when there is a tragedy or there is a mistake or failure, and they know okay, they could have avoided it or they learned something, and hindsight, yes, I could have done this, I could have done that. They torture themselves. They have this unsurmountable self expectations set for themselves, and they start pitying themselves and going into performance, kind of getting impacted. So what are some of these myths that people keep in mind, and they could just get rid of those, and their performance, their life will be easier?
Yeah,
Some of
very,
those
very
myths.
interesting.
One
Yes.
you
So,
already mentioned, that being weak or being vulnerable, as Brené Brown said,
yes,
being vulnerable is weak. That's not true. That's not
that's
true.
not
That
true.
makes you human, and that's what leads to your team connecting with you as a human being, standing for you, supporting you when the time comes, right? So being vulnerable is not weak. That's one myth. Let's have some other.
Second is you should ask for help. And I have also learned from mistakes. Like you said, people think that that's another myth that everybody, the manager or the leader should have all the answers.
Right.
I used to think it this way also. So sometimes when team would come to me and I don't have answers, I would be like, where should I hide myself? Or I would say, okay, I'll
Exactly.
try to,
Self
yeah.
expectation.
Yes, self expectation. And I wouldn't even say that, let me figure out or whatever. I would just tell something and it might lead to disaster. It did happen. And I learned from my mistake. And now I know if I am not an expert, there is no shame in telling I have no idea because today there is enormous knowledge. There is enormous information and no one knows everything.
Right.
So, you know everything is second myth that is associated with leadership. Third is I should not be saying that I don't know. So that humility is missing. And if I say that I don't know, my team would stop respecting me. That is
Respecting.
third myth. Yeah, but that's again totally untrue. If you say that I don't know, I don't have all the answers, they will rather respect you more because that's human. So that is next thing. And fourth myth is I should be knowing, and again connected to I should be knowing everything. Now I rely on experts for that. So I would say, okay, I know only this much. Go to somebody else. So seek help.
Right.
That is another thing. Seeking help is not again negative for a leader. It is actually very very positive for leader. So this is the fourth myth that I would say is associated with leadership. And finally, the last thing that we discussed that if I start behaving very nice with them, they would actually not follow discipline and they would not work for me.
Right.
And, yeah, so that theory X and theory Y, I think proponents of theory X would say that people would not work, but we know that theory is not right.
Not right. Yes. Awesome. So coming back to culture building as a leader is my primary job. That's how I look at leadership, building a culture. So what kind of culture should I build? Let's say so far we have discussed about being a culture where employees are engaged, a culture where employees can trust their management and management can trust their employees. Trust flows both ways. It's an open workshop. Feedback is kind of available and it's honest feedback. But how about some more features of a culture, like creating a culture where failure is you mentioned that already, I think. Culture where failure is not looked down, right? Then culture of innovation, culture of lean, culture of, I don't know, give me what all should I keep in mind while I'm building this culture? Because it's a long-term process. So maybe step by step, this is how you should do it. So some guidelines, some pointers.
Yes, I think culture is very much very very customized. And it's not that what works in one organization would work for you also. There
Right.
will be some general thing like you rightly mentioned, that openness or connect. But for example, you are like us. We are we are regulated by RBI, and we work in highly regulated environment. Am I really looking at innovation because everybody else is doing that? I need to first look at that. So look at your environment within your organization first. What is your objective? What is your purpose? What are you going to give to customers? And then create it around it, around your vision, mission, and your values. Values also will play a very important role. Most of the times, people will bring in generic values and put it in the organization, but ultimately it would fail. Like you say, teamwork can be a very important value, and it is applicable in most of the scenarios. But the work that you are doing, is it really a teamwork, or it is more of individual that you need to see?
Hmm.
There may be instances where you are tilted towards individual working. There are roles like that, we know. If it is about creativity, like you are into creative thing like painting or something, then it is not bringing in a lot of ideas from outside. It is going within and bringing ideas from inside. So
Hmm.
I would say the general formula should be: look at the kind of value that you are bringing to customer, look at your purpose, look at your objective, and then decide what would be your values. Once values are set, you have to live by them. So if you want a communication culture, if you want an open culture, then you have to live by that. Then there should not be any appointments to meet CEO. There
Right.
should not be, yeah.
Right.
And that's how you would be living by it. So three phases will be there. One is identifying what you stand for. Second is bringing in those values, those vision statements, and giving it a definition also. Don't make them generic and keep them open.
Right.
What is innovation for you? What is integrity for you? Integrity is mostly misused. For
Hmm.
anything, we will just put integrity, but define it. And finally, live by them. You may also see a situation where some of the values are not working. It happens in life also.
Right.
The values that you and I had 20 years ago have
Now
gone for
change.
a change.
Right.
So it happens with the organization also. So evaluate and come back to the drawing board again and bring in those the whole structure, the whole framework again is what I would say. And one example that I would like to cite about value, it's very close to my heart. It happened with a friend of mine. She works in a startup, and the value was that leaders should lead by example. So it so happened that they decided criteria to allocate cabins. And the criteria would be like this age, these many years in the organization, or some other things. It so happened that CEO did not fit the criteria, whatever was laid down by the team. And the CEO lived by value, and he said, I would not be sitting in a cabin because the criteria did not meet this time. They
Right.
would have definitely changed it later on, but at that point of time, he decided to be away from a cabin. So that's living by your values.
Right. Right. Makes a lot of sense. That's authenticity, living by your values. You do what you say others or expect others to do, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Now coming back to an important piece of culture building is your talent, right? So what would be your advice in terms of hiring the best talent and retaining the best talent? What would be some of the best practices in hiring so that you can hire the best talent that suits your organization's purpose, suits your organization's goals, suits your organization's requirements, but you cannot probably pay them that much. In the market, they can get better payments, right? So how do you attract that best talent to your organization? And some of the best practices around how do you retain those talents? Because these are the people who build the value for our customers, that these are the people, our employees is what makes the businesses, what I believe. So how do you best practices around hiring, best practices around retaining talent?
Yeah, I rightly said you may have anything in the organization, any sort of technology, but if there's no talent to run it,
Right.
you are nowhere.
Right.
Yes, I think the thing should start from the intent to hire, even before the JD is written.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we do not have that positive intent to hire, we are just looking to fill up that position.
Hmm.
So start even before the JD is written and have that intent in place. That is point number one.
So what do you mean by intent? Write the intent. Why? I mean, I didn't understand that part.
So right, intent is if you have your intent is to have people from this college, this batch, this competitor.
Ah,
Then the intent is very very limited,
right, right, right.
and you will then write the JD accordingly. So even
Mhm.
before writing the JD, the intent is important.
Got it. Got it.
The intent also comes into picture when you decide whether you are looking at innovation, so you bring in people from there, or you are looking at whatever you have been doing, just let it be there.
Continue.
So that's what I'm saying. Because if intent is not right, your hiring is not going to be a
Mhm.
success.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Step
So
one is
first
intent.
is yes. After that, then decide on the overall process how you are going to hire. Okay, so first you ask me the branding piece, and before that, so for branding, the first thing would be JD, and then how are you going to place it to the world? How are you showcasing yourself? So there are very unique ideas today to bring in videos, to bring in the awards that you have. But what works the best is to share stories. Again, the
Ah,
storytelling comes into picture here. And if you can get it directly from the people who are with the system,
hmm.
nothing better than that. So a reference scheme works the best, right? Because
Okay.
they are sharing a story with people. So share the story, share the way things have been happening here. That is second thing. Third is don't go overboard and be authentic, because later on it is going to be out in open if you are trying to hide something, and there is already glass door, there is already ambition box to tell people what is not there.
Right.
Next would be considering interview as a two-way process. The traditional way of doing things is just asking question like we are doing it today. It's an interaction, it's not an interview.
Right.
So do it with candidates also, and give them the best experience right from application till even if they are not hired, because word of mouth spreads. So again, be genuine and do things in the best possible way. If you are inviting applications on social media, then also you must reply to whosoever is applying, and give them a positive experience. So I think it's 12, 13 years ago that I had this experience. One of the managers reviewed the CV and then invited somebody for interview. The interview lasted, I guess, 67 seconds.
Wow.
And the candidate came all the way to our office to attend this interview. Now think about the experience that the candidate will have.
Right.
Another example where time is set and this manager is out to have chai sutta break and candidate is waiting. So
This-
small things. Yeah,
but they
sorry,
matter. They matter to the experience of the candidate who is coming.
yes.
Right.
So it is overall experience, and gone are the days where people would come as slave to work. So slave master relationship does not exist anymore. Now people are taking feedback about their managers also. So each and every practice, every point I would say counts when it comes to best hiring practices.
Right.
Now, retention, all the things that we spoke about manager. The first thing is manager. Second, yes, you cannot play on money, it is not sustainable, but you have to have both internal and external benchmarks. You may write anything in your handbook, don't share your salary, don't tell to anyone, it's confidential. It's not going to work out. तुझे कितना मिला मुझे इतना मिला is first thing that people talk today.
Right.
So have that fairness in the system. Recognition becomes extremely important, because if I am doing something and I am not respected for it, valued for it, I don't want to do it anymore. And there are other opportunities outside, so retention becomes a problem. Another good practice that I have seen is involving families. Because when you decide to quit, they come and say, "Nahi, nahi, this is a great organization. Don't leave it for some amount of money." Like we have a practice wherein if you do something extraordinary going beyond your regular duties, we either invite your family to our office, the red carpet welcome, or we go and we present a plaque and a voucher to the family.
Wow.
But most important thing is what is written there, that how you have contributed towards organization. So that is another thing to practice. So I would say look holistically what an employee is looking at, all side of wellness that we say.
Right.
So physical well-being, the intellectual well-being is also important. What kind of role have I been offered? Am I able to bring out my skills in this role? The environmental well-being. If I'm operating from home, are you supporting me with infrastructure? If I'm in office, what kind of work environment I have? An environment does impact. When I was in hostel doing my engineering, I had a roommate who was not so, I would say, tidy the way I would want things to happen. And I still remember that feeling which I would have when I had to go back to hostel from college, and I would be like, "Do char ghante aur yahi ruk jati," because I did not want to enter that messy room that she had created every time. So even environmental wellness is important.
Got it.
Spiritual, we spoke about purpose. How do I contribute towards the whole thing? Is extremely important. The social connect, the social media, the social connect, the water cooler connect. How can I? Sometimes even this is important. I just want to vent. How do I vent? That social connect comes into picture. The emotional piece comes into picture. Financial. Are you supporting me for the welfare? So I would say if you look at 8 dimension of holistic wellness, you have all the answers for employee retention.
Got it. Got it. Now, one thing, I have never stayed with an organization for more than 2 years because my criteria from day one was very simple. Either I'm growing or I'm learning. If I'm not doing the same thing for 2 years, I'm done. I am not growing, not learning, I'm not staying. So when employees leave an organization, that leaving process, I have seen companies mishandling, manhandling, and all kinds of doing all kinds of wrong things to employees. It has not happened with me so far, but I have experienced that, my colleagues, people who have left a couple of months before me, or they have worked with me and they've left. I keep hearing these stories. So, how much important do you think? I understand hiring process is important, but the process of letting go someone, how important is that for a leader to understand and then work on that or create a process around that? Because I believe employees are your biggest brand ambassadors for a company. So if they're inside the company, you have to ensure that they know what to say, what not to say. And once they're gone, they're brand ambassadors or they're destroyers. So your leaving process can influence that if you know how to handle it. So how important is this process of leaving or letting go of employees? And what could be some of the best practices to build that as a process? If you have already done something, you can share with us. That'll be great.
Yeah, very important link, and I call it lasting impression. First impression when you see the JD, the advertisement, but
Right.
when you are leaving, that leaves the lasting impression in your thoughts.
Absolutely.
And how you are going to talk about, you are not going to look back 5 years and talk about it. You are going to look back the last 3 months, the 90 days notice period that we talked about, and how you were treated at that point of time. So yes, and I think the industry is also awakening to this fact, and a lot of good practices are now there. It used to take 2 months time for people to get full and final settlement done.
Right.
Now it's happening right there, and the new law is also in progress. And if it happens, then it would be flat 2 days time that it would happen.
Okay.
But the most important thing is how well respected I felt when I left the organization.
Yes.
Even the retention talk, was it around me or was it around a process? Even that vibe that I get becomes important. Yes, there are certain the business aspects which for which you may not be able to involve the person, but how do you tell them? How do you treat them? Your I think more than words or communication, it is your body language that talks a lot at the time of resignation and the vibe that they get. And so involve them as long as possible. Do not alienate them because they have resigned. They should not feel as if they have done some sin. So I heard this dialogue from some friend whose CEO would say that they better die than leave my organization. So if you come under those categories, then your organization is not going to live for a very long time. You need to
Right.
understand that.
Right.
So respect, value, love, care is what I would say you can do the best for the employee who is exiting. The support that you provide. So some of the best practices, the support that you provide in terms of full and final settlement, the closures, the guidelines should be very clear. They should not be required to follow up for resignation acceptance because they have to definitely share it with others. Pushing them, are you joining my competitor? Where are you joining? And the all the sort of agreements, the binding agreements that don't even hold for law, you push them with that, the experience is not going to be good. So what we do is create a forum for lasting impression. We call it lasting impression, and we ask them post their full and final settlement is done that share your thoughts, because until they are in system, you may not have the right perspective or the correct
Authentic
truth.
response, yes.
Yes. So once they are done, the relieving letter is also released. We ask them to share this and then we put it on social media also, because that's a story which everybody is going to accept. And there also, if you don't accept it or like it, it's like there's something missing. But we don't leave the connect there. We are connected with them forever as an alumni network. We wish them on their birthdays, on their anniversary, year on year. Doesn't matter whether they are in system or not. We don't eliminate those pictures, those videos where former employees were part, and they continue as if it is a continuing story. Just because you left the organization, your value does not come down for me. So these are some of the best practices. But one thing, if I have to say, respect is what you need to do as a best practice.
Got it. Inside the company as well as after they have left. Huh? Awesome. I was writing something about intellectual well-being. So how important it is for me as a leader when I'm designing the organization of the future, workplace of the future, or let's say workplace of the present, because I've been corrected. After pandemic, this is workplace of the present, right? So we are
Present,
focusing on
yes.
this.
Future is already here.
Already here, right? So yes, that's true. So when I'm designing this workplace of tomorrow or today, how important it is for me to focus on creating a culture of continuous learning, and what behavior as a leader should I showcase and allow me, so that my employees can follow suit. Basically, okay, this is how we create, this is how people are, and this is how we should also. And together it becomes a culture of continuous learning. So, how should I create it? What would be some of your advice, some of the behaviors and best practices around that?
Yes, very, very important, because now people know that the skills that they have are not going to help them through their career. It happened in
No
a
chance.
generation before, but
Ah,
now we know skills are dying. Like I said, leave and attendance. Now nobody is doing it, but I started my career with that. Machines
okay.
have taken that role.
Right.
I need to do something else. Coaching that I never heard about, but today I need to coach managers or coach people. So those skills are always going to change, and I expect my manager and my organization to take care of it to a certain extent, at least in terms of supporting me. The leave required for attending a course, or the kind of positive support, like somebody was allocated a leave of 8 weeks to go to US and earn that degree.
Okay.
We supporting whatever possible in terms of financials, but don't tell me ever that you are wasting time by learning something. Any skill that I'm going to learn, I need to have that horizon. As a manager, I expect you to tell me how is this skill going to help me, and where are what are the ways I can learn. And also do that for yourself also. There are a lot many ways to learn today. It's not restricted to a classroom. You
Right.
can go to a YouTube, like the talk that we are having today, or when we watch somebody else talking about their life experiences, it is a learning. So bring me the solutions, bring me the ways through which I can learn. And learning is not expensive today, it's certification that is expensive.
Yes. Yes.
Lot many apps are doing it, right? They give you the learning for free. When you go for certification, you have to pay for it.
Right.
So bring me those avenues as a leader and create that learning culture. When I am learning, give me those opportunities also, the cross functional opportunities. So one thing, the unusual thing that we do generally, a lot of other things are there. IJP is there. We create committees. So we call like fun club. We call it like posh committee, and there are a lot many other committees wherein you can get involved, a newsletter committee, wherein you can get involved and bring in your creative side, and you can also learn a lot of things
Right.
through this committee. So
Right.
you have never done employee engagement, here's an opportunity. You can run a month's employee engagement event, and the learning or the confidence that you get from there, it's amazing.
Right.
You have never been part of say editorial team, but here is a newsletter and you can bring in your expertise there, or you can learn and have support us.
Right.
So besides those cross functional things, there are speaker sessions also which can be helpful. So
Okay.
look at the type of learning. If we have to go to roots of it, how do I learn? Do I learn through videos? Are there options available? Do I learn through observation?
Mm.
Are there options available? Because online observational learning takes a hit. So do you
Right.
allow me to be in office so that I can look up to others and learn from there? I have had lot many learnings through observational learning. Back then I did not know this is called as observational learning, but it was extremely helpful. Do I learn by reading? Are there subscriptions available, or am I being reimbursed for it?
Ah.
Do I learn by doing? Are there committees available where I can take part and I can do? As are you available there as a guide to tell me what is skill of future or
Mm.
present, like you said? So these are five things that I would say you need to take care of when you create a learning organization. Appreciate learning in any form. Like I shared this example that my organization just celebrated my book because that gave me a lot of learning. So they created an example that if you are learning or you are doing something, forget moonlighting, you are well respected. So there should be a policy about this also, that what you can do and what you cannot. We have had it since 2016. It
Mhm.
takes flat 5 days for my organization to respond to you
Mm.
whether you can go for this particular gig or not. And I did take approvals to start my circle, which is called as Leader Lifting Leaders,
Right.
under which umbrella the book has been published. So this happened long, long ago. So I think these are the things: the framework, the intent, the support, and in terms of reimbursements and all, and the encouragement.
Awesome. Makes a lot of sense for culture building. So you mentioned about your book, which is on networking. It was a fun
Yes.
read. So how is the book? I mean, give us some tips from the book around networking. What will be your top three picks if I am trying to get into leadership role or senior leadership role? Does networking mean anything to me? Is it going to impact my growth in any way? Is it going to help me? What's your advice on that? I don't think networking is important to me. What do you say?
Yes, I used to think like you, and now I have written this book.
Right.
Yes, I have learned through years, and not only me. There are four co-authors with the
Right.
book, and all of them have done this discovery that networking is not just knowing each other. It's like developing those deep connections and learning from people and leveraging on your network, supporting others. So one thing that I would like to say is networking is not waste of time, and it is not only about knowing those VVIPs, because it's commoners through whom we get things done.
Right.
Second thing, networking can help you both in the organization and outside organization.
Right.
So I'm blessed with a large network now, and if I have any kind of requirements, be it to understand a policy regulation, be it to get a vendor, be it to bounce off my ideas, I have someone in this space who is supporting me on it.
Right.
Right, so it is helping in both organization and outside. But yes, you have to invest for networking. It is not about attending those network meetups,
Right.
every meeting that is happening in your city,
Right.
but it is about knowing just one person. So how I did in COVID, and it really helped me to create that large network. I used to meet one person every day. So in beginning, 10 people a week, uh, either over phone or Zoom call. But later on, it became one person a week. Sorry, one person each day, and now it is one new person each week. But I don't restrict myself only to HR professionals or learning and development professionals. It's across. So, like we were discussing, that I recently took up a role in marketing. I already have a large network to support me there. because it's a heterogeneous network, and I continue to build on those relationships. Never ask for any support, but now that I want to know what more I can do in my marketing role, they are there to mentor me. So this is
Right.
how networking works.
Awesome. One of the chapters in the book, I think, focused on first connecting with you, because if you're not connected with you, you connecting with others is not going to work much. It's not going to be effective and sustainable. I love that advice basically in the book. First connect with yourself, know
Yes.
yourself, and then look outside. So it made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So
like I said, self. Everything starts from self. Go
yes,
within first. Yeah.
right. So this is awesome. Like I'm just counting 3.5 pages. Okay.
Wow.
So if people have to reach out to you, where should they reach out? LinkedIn or some?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is the best place.
Yes.
You are at Gauri Das, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll probably ask the team to paste the LinkedIn page, your LinkedIn page here. And thanks for sharing so much of value. And I think it's practical, implementable. There is a lot of gap. I mean, the major gap that stops us from achieving our potential is the knowledge action gap. We know a lot of stuff, but
Yes.
acting or implementing, that's where we kind of lay back a little, right? So if
Yes.
there are aspiring leaders or existing leaders listening to this, and they have a little drive to act on these, I think they're going to benefit a lot. That's my hope. And thank you for contributing with your insight, with your experience, with your wisdom. This has been fun for me. A lot of learning.
Same here, and the way you carried the whole conversation was really amazing. I mean, the next question coming from the earlier conversation, and you go deep dive and come up with something which can be really helpful for people. So, really loved it. Thank you so much for creating this format and the platform. I hope people get benefited by our conversation, and we
That's the
also get to learn something from there.
yes, that's the hope. So thank you, Gauri. Thank you for spending this time with us, investing this time with us. And I hope in future seasons also I can borrow you, and we can probably discuss something else around success and coaching and stuff like that.
My pleasure. I look forward to it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.